All right. I think I think that I am live. Hopefully, as long as technology is working. Technology has been really rough today. So the webcam might just suddenly freeze, and that would be unfortunate. Or my internet has been spotty, and that would be unfortunate. So if you experience buffering and all that, oh yeah, I was going to record this at the same time so that in case the internet quality is really bad, then we'll be fine. We can recover it, right? Right. Happy Thursday, everybody! It's Ptony, your friendly Catholic vlogger, and today we're going to read chapter one of my short story. It looks like this. This isn't a short story. This is the beginning of a whole novel. I have a whole outline developed that I developed years ago, and I've written a grand total of 2 chapters. So that's great. Excuse me. Pardon me. All right. If you are joining us not live, then know that down in the description I'll put after the stream I'm gonna put a little timestamp that'll say when the story itself starts. But first, I just wanted to check: is anybody watching? One person's watching. Hello, one person that's watching. It's good to have you here. I'm glad I'm not alone. That makes life much nicer. Um, um, shall we just dive in? I don't need a stall, do I? Unless you have something to say, my fellow audience that is prestigious and wonderful. Um, if you have something to say, say it. If you don't, hello, Mrs. Schnitt NW. How should I say your name on stream? Um, I know who you are in real life, but hello. It's good to have you. All right, we're gonna jump in. You ready? This is called The Shadow by Ptony Schmidt. Chapter 1. Part 1, Chapter 1. The little boy nervously looked at the class in front of him. The paper in his hands trembled slightly, but he knew that by the time he had read only a few lines, he'd be immersed in the paper and forget about the class. He took a deep breath and dove in. I was awake. That was the first thing I noticed. It was the middle of the night, and I should have been deep in sleep, but I wasn't. Then I noticed that it was dark. It was too dark to see anything. I couldn't see light from the moon or stars spill through my window into the floor. I couldn't see the shadow of the toys that made my room a mess, and I couldn't see the covers of my bed, although they were right in front of me. But then I realized I couldn't feel my bed either. I wasn't in bed. I was standing. I wasn't in my room. And it was dark, and I was awake. Then I noticed fear. There was too much unknown. Where am I? Am I in danger? Am I alone? All I could see was the dark. That's all I knew was there. I searched my other senses, and there were no sounds or smells or tastes. There were feelings, though. I could feel the ground beneath my feet, and I also felt cold. The ground beneath my feet was hard and unforgiving. It was flat, but as rough as sandpaper, and it was cold against my naked feet. I felt cold everywhere. It was a passive cold. It wasn't aggressive or biting, and it didn't chill my bones, but it was equally dull and constant, a relentless messenger whispering in my ear that I was unwelcome, even as it caressed my entire body. And the dark was so oppressive and suggested horrible images by its lack of light. Were there walls around me covered in black vines that would imprison this body until it became a corpse? Was there an infinite vastness in every direction that left me lost to insignificant solitude? The darkness felt alive and more vicious with the passing moments, and yet it was quiet and biding its time. It relished how little I knew and how much I feared. Here the dark was prince. I closed my eyes, shutting them tight even though there was nothing to shut out. I clenched my fists to feel strong and safe. I had to leave here. This darkness would kill me if I stayed. I took a step. But as I did so, my heart choked with fear. 3/4 through the step, I was afraid there would be a cliff waiting for me. But the step was safe. I was rocked by terror, but I was safe. I had to keep moving. My eyes were wide open now, even though it made no difference. I crouched and felt the ground with my hands. The ground was strong, immovable, rough, and hard. It felt like it must be a ginormous stone. Astonishingly so, since in my entire stay in this world, there was no hint of cracks or separations between neighboring stones. I continued forward gingerly on my hands and knees, and made some semblance of progress. It was slow progress, especially since I was being cautious. But slowly I felt safer and moved quicker. I didn't have a direction to follow, just hope. And somehow this moving gave me confidence. Everything was going to be okay. Something burned my hand. I pulled it back, cringing. What was that? The ground had felt the same texture, just suddenly that spot had been scalding hot. I reached out nervously and tapped various spots in front of me, but there was no sign of the hot spot. Had I imagined it? I couldn't tell. At any rate, I didn't want to risk any more incidents, and so I turned left, moving slowly and cautiously again. But as there were no more incidents, little by little I was convinced that I had imagined the burn. Then something stabbed my knee. This time I knew I hadn't imagined it. Oddly, that was my first, though. I pulled my knee up off the ground and shifted my weight to my other leg and hands. But I did so quickly and without much thought, and because of my position, I didn't pull my knee straight off the spike, but at an angle, and so the spike tore further at my flesh. I grimaced, clenched my teeth. Pain burned my knee, but I couldn't reach with my hands to nurse it because my hands were holding my weight. I concentrated on not moving, on staying safe where I was, and I thought about how much my knee hurt. Eventually, I felt strong enough to move again. I walked my hands back, slowly feeling for how safe it was. I felt out a spot next to me and collapsed into it. I hugged my knee tenderly in an effort to nurse it to some comfort, and I began to cry. I don't know how long I stayed there, but it was a long while. It felt like the beginning of eternity because I could see no escape to this wasteland. Tears rolled gently down my cheek, and I consoled myself by thinking that perhaps, with practice, I could numb myself to the pain and isolation. But this was not my eternity. My eyes were shut, but of a sudden I noticed something tickled them. It was light. I opened my eyes and saw my shadow outlined by a warm glow of flickering light. The light came from behind me and seemed to be coming closer since it was growing stronger. I looked behind me, and I saw a man carrying a candle, and instinctively my heart warmed. One man carrying a candle was enough to give hope to the wasteland. I was no longer alone. It was no longer black. A man without a candle would have been comforting, but unhelpful. A candle without a man would have been illuminating, but eerie. But I had both candle and man, both light and companion. He looked strong and gentle in every way, like a man with a direction in life, and like a man who helps others find theirs. This was a man to save me. "How we doing?" he said. His voice had that same balance of strength and understanding. His words came out with confidence and in earnest. He was a baritone, just higher than bass and just lower than tenor. I looked back at him, not knowing what to say, still clutching my knee. I faltered. "I'm okay." "No, not really." The man smiled. "Did you hurt your knee?" "Yeah," I said. It was getting easy to talk to him. I was crawling and kneeled on something sharp. Is it bad? He asked, and he crouched beside me. I nodded and gingerly pulled my hands away to show him my wound. But nothing was there. What? I said. My knee still throbbed, but there was nothing there. But It's okay, the man said. It's something about this place. He looked around me on the ground until he found something. He picked it up and showed it to me. A pebble the size of a pea. Here, it was probably this. Things always feel worse than they should here. I took the pebble. It was pointy, but not super pointy, like a flattened out pyramid. But it felt like a whole spike, I said. I was worried I wouldn't be able to walk again. The man smiled. Lucky for you, you can. At least I think you can. You want to try? I was still shaken up, but he had already stood back up and was offering his hand. I let him help me back up. Sweet deal, he said, his face beaming. I want to help you out of here. I smiled, still feeling outside my comfort zone, but also feeling grateful. Which way is out? I asked. He pointed in the distance. This way, he said. There's a mountain we'll climb, but it's worth it. Oh, and one more thing. I want you to have this light. He took out another candle and lit it with his first, and then handed it to me. Shall we walk? I looked at the newborn little light dancing merrily. We shall, I said, and we took our first steps. Simon took a deep breath before looking up from his paper. He had done well, he knew. The images were fresh in his mind, and they were vivid enough that it'd be hard not to let some echo communicate itself to his listeners. Very well done, said the teacher, Mr. Alexei, and then he ushered Simon to his seat. What did you think? He said to the whole class. A war of high school social conventions waged in the mind of each of the students. No one was raising a hand or betraying an opinion. Simon sat in his seat with his head bowed, trying not to look like he cared if anyone liked his paper. The kid next to him sat in his chair with his head bowed. He liked Simon's story, but tried to look like he was indifferent. It wasn't a time to share your thoughts. It was a time to share what you thought other people thought, if you were brave. Or slightly oblivious. I liked it, said a kid named Omar. He was popular. He had an upfront nature such that he always said what was on his mind, which usually wasn't much. He was easy to dupe and was duped a lot, but he had a gift of laughing at himself with everyone else, and that gift pulled everything together so that everyone liked him. He continued, I didn't really understand where he was supposed to be or who that guy was, but I thought it was good. Another kid raised his hand. I thought the man with the candle was cool, he joined it. It was cool how he talked about the candle without the man being eerie, and the man without the candle being unhelpful. By now there was a gentle buzz of approval, and Simon was feeling really good about himself. But then Holly spoke. I didn't like it, she said matter-of-factly. There was a moment of silence as the class waited for an explanation, but she said nothing. Why didn't you like it? The teacher asked. It just seemed really dark, she said. Holly was a popular girl, so she really didn't need reasons for what she said. Her peers would simply treat her as if she was right. Well, said Mr. Alexei, maybe it was supposed to be dark. Simon, were you trying to write a dark paper? Simon shifted uncomfortably. It was just a dream, he said. That's fascinating, said Mr. Alexei. So was it a dark dream? Simon looked increasingly uncomfortable. Yeah, he muttered. I mean, kind of. I like how it ended. There you have it, said the teacher, turning back again to Holly. Simon looked relieved. The grand author has spoken. It's supposed to be dark, and then there's light. That there's conflict, crisis, and resolution. That's a tried and true structure. What do you think? What, you meant that guy at the end with the candle? Holly said. Yep. That was creepy as all get out, she said. You're telling me that because some random old fogey shows up, gives him a candle, and says he knows the way, everything is okay now? Who is he? What's he doing there? How do we know he's not some sketchwad? Yeah, I guess that's marginally better than hearing about some spike tearing sideways through his knee. Seriously, what a freak. That was gross. Simon felt sick. But the teacher smiled. Well, the teacher said, what a refreshing perspective. Thank you, Holly. Certainly my perspective is very different, but that's what I love about the fine arts. Ultimately, we're all talking about our views on life, and naturally we all have very different views on life, so it becomes a delightful conversation with a lot of give and take, back and forth. For homework, everyone can continue working on their descriptive pieces. Those that have finished can take a well-deserved break. Class dismissed. And within 2 Mississippis of his last word, the bell rang, because Mr. Alexi was always punctual. Simon gathered his books and glanced one more time at his paper as he packed up. He had had that dream again last night. It was one of his favorite dreams, even though most of it was so terrifying. But when he glanced at the last paragraph of his paper, something felt off. Not that there was something off with his paper, but last night there was something different in his dream. What was it? The man with the candle had said something important, right at the end. What was it? Simon couldn't remember. Dreams are difficult. Hopefully the dream would come again soon, maybe even that night. Then he could write it down first thing in the morning. For now, it was time to find his brother. And that, my dear friends, is the end of chapter 1. Hello, Joe. Welcome, Shoeless Joe, to the stream. I'm glad you're here. And there you have it. That's chapter 1. There's a 30-second delay now, huh? While I wait for. What did you think? I hope you liked it. How many people we got in the stream now? We've got 4. Guys, that's 4 times as big as we started. What happens next? That's a great question. I mean, so I could tell you all those things. It's all in his in an outline. I have the whole outline written out. His brother's name is Pat. We're gonna meet him in the next chapter. I've only written like 2.5 chapters so far. So chapter 2 is done, so we can do this again soon. Next week I have a video. The next 2 weeks I have videos planned, but maybe in 3 weeks or so. And then I'll have to finish chapter 3 before we can go on after that. Dun 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 dun. Yeah. So there you go. Chapter 1 of The Shadow. Seems like you liked it. That makes me happy. Dun dun dun. All right. Well, so what? That was like a 20-minute stream. I might end this quickly because that way it's less daunting for anybody else that says, "Oh, I want to listen to chapter 1, but oh my gosh, it looks like an hour-long stream." No, I don't want to do that to people. If we just cut it short, then people will know it's only 20 minutes. Yeah, I like being compared to Charles Dickens. I'm okay with that. Yeah, we'll go for that. Christina, welcome. This is my book. Yeah, this is my book. If you go back to the beginning, I stalled for like a minute or two just in case more people were going to tune in. But then this is chapter 1 of a novel that I've been wanting to write for a long time. I started this back in grade school, and I've had to reboot it a bunch of times. But this is the time when I'm just pushing through to the end. So I've made a whole outline and write 1 chapter at a time. And my rule for myself is that I can't edit. I can't go back to edit the first chapters until I finish, all the other chapters. Maggie, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. Hopefully it's easy enough to jump in the middle of it. A kid reads off a descriptive piece in class, and it's dark. All right, that's my whole story. Um, yeah, everyone loves a good reboot. As an author, that's a lot of hard work. My first draft is so different. It's not even the same story. It was. I don't know if I have it anymore. Maybe I'll look around for it. Yeah, I should look around for it. Um, all right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. It's really good to have you all. And we'll do this again soon, in about a month or so. Shoeless Joe, yeah, I'll definitely look for it. Where would it be? I don't have many papers from grade school. That'd be tricky. It's completely different. It's not okay. So what it has in common is the the kid is being oppressed by a dark environment while he's supposed to be in his room at night. But there's like a creature that crawls in and he bites his neck, and it was almost like Alien, where like the creature implants an egg inside of Simon's body, and then the vision for the story was eventually this was going to like, I don't know, grow inside him and do weird stuff. It was originally a Halloween story. It's a little different now. All right. Well, cool. I'm gonna end the stream. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll do this again soon. Okay. Next week, I have a plan for my video. The week after that, I'm going to be doing a trailer for the Game of Favorites because that's coming soon. That's coming on the 21st. So 2 Thursdays from today will be the Thursday before the Game of Favorites. And then in theory, I mean, I don't know. Maybe after that we'll do chapter 2. So tell all your friends and tell them to go watch this one, and we'll just have a hoot. It's gonna be great. Thanks so much for coming, guys. I'm glad you liked it. That makes me really happy, and that means I'll definitely keep making this happen. All right. Oh, mighty bard, I could get used to that. All right, I'm just a humble author. All right, God bless and ciao, everybody. It's really great to have you. Bye.